Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Edward Elgar Publishing Limited. It's part of their research handbooks in comparative law, and this one is Comparative Property Law. It's a global perspectives look at comparative property law in the various jurisdictions. It's been edited by Michele, Graziadei and Lionel Smith. I hope I've pronounced that name correctly, but apologies in advance. As I say, this book is from Elgar. It's online as well as available as both a book and an e-book. And let's have a look at the book first. The book actually is a hardback. There it is. There's the spine, and then you can see on the back quite a lot of information. If I just move it back a bit, and if you go in a little bit, you can see a lot of information there. It's a hardback, as I say, runs to 500 pages. There's an index which is on page numbering, which is at the back. And after the index, it's quite a substantial index in fact, which starts there. You've then got the various chapter headings, and you do have at the end of each a very nice conclusion, and then you have references. So you have references right after the conclusion for each of the chapter headings. You can see the chapter headings. There are sub-paragraph numbers as well. There is footnoting. You can see some detailed footing, not too much, I hasten to add. Now, that's the front page, and this is the series of handbooks already produced by Elgar, and the series editors are Francesco Parisi and Tom Ginsberg, but they produced some really excellent books. Now, the book is actually structured in parts, so you have parts and then you have chapters, and you can see in total there are 3 parts and 21 chapters. Then there are some tables. Then you've got the list of contributors. Large number. I can't go through all the names. I'd like to thank all of them very much indeed for what they have done by producing this book. Then there's a preface, which is always worth reading. So you've got some idea of where the editors are coming from. The preface is dated International Workers' Day 2016. Now, I have to say I don't know which day that is, I'm afraid, but however, I'm sure someone can tell me. Part 1, Perspectives from Other Disciplines. So you can see there quite clearly, straight into the book. Then you have the actual title and the person who's written it beneath it, and then you've got the various pieces of body copy. You do have paragraph numbering to a certain extent. It's more subheading, really, and as I say, you do have excellent references. So in 500 pages, it's an interesting book. Property law, of course, being the cornerstone, effectively, of law in the sense of civil law, because property, both land and chattels, are going back for many centuries, normally the beginning of the main disputes, whether it's in contract, tort or whatever. So the title, well, Elizabeth and I talked about the book, and we've given it a title, Property Law Across the Globe, Comparative Studies of a Wide Variety of Jurisdictions Worldwide. And this is what we say about the book. Property and the relevant laws which govern it has been a part of civil life for millennia, as I've just alluded to. However, all too many studies published on the subject focus on specific localities in specific jurisdictions. Fortunately for international lawyers then, those concerned with the vagaries of global markets, this new handbook from Edward Elgar is a departure from the norm. As the title indicates, it offers comparative studies and therefore global perspectives on property law across a wide range of countries, jurisdictions and jurisdictions worldwide. Obviously that's hence the word comparative, and it's useful in a global community to understand where we fit in. Now, the joint editors are Michele Graziadei and Lionel Smith. Perhaps I've got it right this time. Sorry, Michele. They both respectively come from the universities of Turin and McGill in Montreal, and they head a team of over 24 international contributors, all acknowledged experts in their field. This volume, says Robert Erickson of Yale Law School, cuts across disciplines and cultures, adding in effect that it provides a welcome antidote to traditional parochial approaches to this subject. And as the editors remark, property in today's world is a contested institution on many grounds. The book therefore contains a number of chapters which refer to or address this and related problems. And I think they do it very well indeed. There is a chapter, for example, on the globalisation of property and land grabbing, another on water rights and another on community rights to forests in the tropics, all of which are actually quite highly emotive subject areas if you think about it. And also there's an element of politics in all of this, of course, as well. Interestingly, there are certain chapters which cover, as the editors explain, communities living outside the formal boundaries of the law, where property rights are governed instead by custom. The chapter on customary tenure in sub-Saharan Africa illustrates this point. And another thought-provoking study here is the chapter on indigenous territorial rights in the common law, which examines the interaction between the common law systems of Australia, Canada, New Zealand and the United States, and what are sometimes known as the Aboriginal rights of their indigenous or First Nation populations. And I can say, certainly from the Canadian perspective, having seen it there, that this is a very important issue. It's an emotive issue for the Canadian Bar Association as well, of course, and I'm sure that is the same for the other Commonwealth countries and, of course, the US. It's reassuring then that the co-editors, Michele in this case, has included an own examination of how the differences between civil law and common law jurisdictions complicate the study of comparative property law, as well they might, and they suggest ways to approach such problems. As one of the latest titles in Elgar's research handbooks in comparative law series then, this book presents the results of an enormous amount of up-to-date research in this increasingly topical area, and contains a wealth of references in the extensive footnoting which is given, and of course the excellent bibliography which follows most chapters after the conclusion. So for comparative lawyers or property lawyers advising international clients, we feel this is an extremely useful volume to acquire. Now the publication date is cited at 2017, and I'm recording this at the beginning of 2017. It's got the copyright date there. Let me just open the book in the middle and see where we are. Systems of public ownership. Why public property? Big issue. Remember that a very large number of countries in the world are not democratic, and therefore there is this issue of land grabbing. I think we know which countries we're talking about. I've been very impressed with this book, and I'm really delighted that in fact these two people have come together, Michele and Lionel, to produce this work with the contributors. The comments on the back are extremely helpful as well, but it is a book which I'm sure will be of great help to international lawyers and those specifically dealing with property. So thank you to all concerned for another excellent high quality book from Elgar. Bye bye.